So we have another second woman who's alleging Epstein sent her to the UK when she was in her early 20s. Of course, the woman was not named. It is confidential, and she was sent to Andrew. Back then it was Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, to the UK, and mentioned she was given a tour around Buckingham Palace. Now I have got Prince Andrew Epstein and the Palace. This is a library book. Now it can biographies they can actually over exaggerate, but it is kind of true, because if I read you chapter 7, who was Jeffrey Epstein? Now he was actually born in Brooklyn on the 20th January 1953 to a family of Jewish immigrants who had escaped the Holocaust. He was brought up in a lower middle class family. Of course, that means he wouldn't have had the chance to go to prestige schools, but he was very gifted in math. Being gifted in math, yes, he might have graduated early from high school, but when he came to colleges, like, universities, he just dropped out. Like, he dropped out of Union College in Lower Manhattan, studying maths, and then he made, like, extra money tutoring classmates, but then he dropped out in 1971. And then he went to New York universities in Korean Institute of Mathematical Science to study the mathematics of heart physiology, but then he dropped out again in 1974. He then eventually became a math and science teacher at Manhattan, even without a degree, at Dalton School, and Rupert Murdoch's daughter Prudence was a pupil there as well, and he actually, it says that he paid special attention to the girls, which was inappropriate, and he was later sacked in 1976. Now, I do believe it could be true, because if you see his later cases in the 1990s, early 2000s, and that became more known in the late 2010s, it is true, and the next page of chapter 7 mentions that he was once involved in laundering money in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and he was worked for Tower Financial Corporation. Oh, when he was sacked in 1976 by the school, one of the parents, they had a firm there, Wall Street broker, and he was pleased with Jeffrey Epstein, so he got a job there from one of his former students' parent. Yeah. Now Andrew has quite sometimes said, when it is mentioned, the interview, he has mentioned that when he was called the party prince, he said he didn't really go to well, he went to parties, but he wouldn't be known as partying. He has also quite, often denied that he has any sexual intercourse with girls. That was on Andrew's side. But of course, sometimes claims, say, some articles like the BBC, this is from The Guardian, says otherwise. If you look at the picture over there, of the picture over there, we can see, this man, there's a clear picture of Andrew. This man is Prince Andrew, who's still as Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, and he's on all fours, or at this moment in this picture, it does kind of look like he's performing CPR, but no one knows what actually went behind on the scenes. But it is mentioned that the Duke of York, this was Sarah Ferguson, who has congratulated, Epstein on his son, and of course, this is again what happened in last year in 2025 about stripping Andrew's titles. Yeah, so some pictures, there's awesome behind the scene pictures. Well, it's the behind the scene pictures of Andrew being on all fours over a woman. Like, this one looks like CPR. We don't exactly know what happened behind the scenes, and it is a very big case. The Epstein files, like BBC News and The Guardian, are since last year, since 2019, it is has exploded with like amount of files for Epstein files and people who are involved, like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Donald Trump was also involved, and of course we have former British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who was friends with Andrew and kind of introduced Andrew and her boyfriend Jeffrey Epstein, and of course she's now facing prison sentence for and I actually did a little bit of deep dive on Giselle Maxwell, and I will do maybe do another video on this.